Oh, crap.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Team Nailed It team meeting. Tonight we're going to be talking about a podcast that I had you all listen to. But first, we're going to show off our manis because most everyone has adorable nails. Are you wearing snowman nails, Paris?
I am. It is midsummer. It is hotter than anything here. So I'm wearing snowmen on my nails.
I love it. That's so fun. Casey, what are you wearing?
I have on at the plaza with Chow Milano.
With what was the second one?
The Chow Milano.
Nice. I love that plaza. It's one of my favorites. I'm muting all of you guys just so we don't get a ton of background noise. So if you want to share, unmute yourself. Lori, were you showing off your nails? Let me see. Here, let me unmute you.
Blue Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon, and what's the other one?
Miami Beach.
Oh, I love Miami Beach. That's fun. Pink and blue. I have, I really love this combo like so freaking much. I have Giza Sands and then Sahara Jewel over acrylics. Super fun.
Oh.
Anyone else want to show off their nails? Oh, Pauline, what do you got? Let me unmute you. Well, there we go.
I'm wearing Southwest Dream, which I kept seeing on, and it's perfectly bold enough for me because I love bold nails. And then I did the new silver tip. I can't think of what it's called.
Oh, that's fun. And did you do like a diagonal?
Yeah, I sometimes do more, but I was trying to rush out because it was my birthday. So
that's so cute.
Yeah, I do different shapes.
I like it. Okay, well, it's so fun to see so many of you guys on. I always love talking about personal development. That's a big thing in our team because it's so important. Because guess what? Sometimes we are our worst enemies. Am I right? And some days are hard, and some days we second guess ourselves. And what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, and we have these moments where we like lose focus or question everything. And so that's why it's so important to listen to personal development. And so tonight we're going to be talking about a podcast, and hopefully many of you guys listen to it. It's from Awesome with Alison, whom I love to listen to. She's just kind of goofy and quirky, and that speaks to me. So the topic was going after your dreams like a barracuda, and the coolest part was she interviewed Rachel Hollis, who is the author of Girl Wash Your Face. And I've also been listening to that audiobook. How many of you guys have listened to Girl Wash Your Face or read? Only a couple? Okay, like 5 of us. So good. So good. You guys need to get it on Audible. I don't read books. I listen to books because I'm a busy mom of 4. It's friggin' hard to like actually sit down and read a book. But listening to books, I can get a lot in, especially when I'm driving my kids around all the time. So yeah, it's a goodie. Casey said she just bought it on Kindle this afternoon. Great. That's awesome, Casey. You're going to love it. I'm not all the way through it, but what I've read, I've loved it. So Alison interviews Rachel Hollis, who is the author, and they talk about a lot of different things and talk about going after your dreams like a barracuda. So how many of you guys actually were able to listen to this podcast? Raise your hands. Show me your nails. If you did. I'm like, raise your hands this way. Yay! It's so fun to hear. And if you didn't, that's fine. You can catch up later. So I really want this to be a discussion and not just me talking. So I will share some of my takeaways from it. I took notes so I wouldn't forget because that is how my mom brain works. So I will share some of my favorite takeaways, and I'm betting you guys had some different ones that stood out to you. So I always love hearing everyone's takeaways because they're always so different than mine. So one of the biggest ones that I absolutely loved was talking about, you know, how sometimes when other people are successful, we tend to get jealous. And that's like a totally natural thing. Like if you're human, that's probably happened to you. So, you know, we've all experienced it, and they were both discussing this and like how they work, how they cope with that, how they, you know, deal with those feelings of like jealousy when you see someone else succeeding or doing something that you want. And one thing that really, really stood out to me, I never ever thought of before, is that, you know, Alison was saying when, let me do speaker review, hang on. She was saying that when you have those like feelings, then it shows you what you truly care about. And so it really made me reflect on when have I had those feelings of like, oh man, like I wish I could do that, or like, why is she succeeding? Why is she doing so good at XYZ? And then it really kind of showed to me that I cared about that particular thing they were succeeding in, like that was truly important to me. And so that was actually kind of a huge eye-opener. I don't know if that was for anyone else, but I was like, oh my gosh, well, no wonder like we have those moments of like jealousy, is because like that's something we care about. That's something we want in our lives. That's a goal we're working towards, or goal we want to start working towards. And so I thought that was a really good thought, that whenever we do have those feelings of jealousy, to like sort of take a step back and like recognize and be aware that, okay, number one, why am I feeling these feelings? And I think it's because we truly care about, you know, that goal, that thing that they're succeeding in. So, which is a great thing. You know, when you care, that shows that you, like when you have emotion or passion involved, I feel like you tend to succeed. And so that was like really big for me. And then the other thing that she mentioned was two other things regarding like, you know, comparing ourselves to other women, or when we feel jealous or whatever, is the second thing that Rachel Hollis recommended was to pray for that woman to have even more success. And I loved that, you know, to just like pray that, just stop what you're doing and pray for them to have even more success, because there's enough abundance in this world for all of us. So I loved that idea. I never thought of that, you know, and just wish them even more. And then the third thing, when we start to compare ourselves, which we all do, we just do, is to, and this is something that has really helped me when I've had moments of, you know, jealousy or comparison, is to congratulate that person. In fact, when I used to be a photographer for several years, and I had a friend who, and I've told this story before, but I had a friend who did like a really creative photo shoot. And I was like, when I heard about it and like the success she had from it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't I think of that? Or like, why is she killing it in this area of photography? And I remember, you know, feeling those feelings, because she was actually a good friend of mine. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to reach out to her and congratulate her. And so I can't remember if I emailed her, texted her, but it was so interesting that when I did congratulate her, it was like all those feelings were gone. Like, because I had just said, congratulations, like, good for you. Those feelings like left, and it was so great. It was like lifted a weight off me. Right. So, so I totally can attest to that, working and helping when we have those feelings of comparison. So that was a big thing. Because I think we all really, you know, I think we often struggle with comparison. I don't know what it is about women especially. I don't think dudes compare themselves as much to each other, right? But I think as women, we're hard on ourselves. We expect a lot, and we compare ourselves. And so I thought those were three like really, really positive ways to deal with that. So yeah. What thoughts? Anyone have any thoughts about that? And I'm trying to mute. Hang on, I'm going to mute all of you again. There we go. Okay, so who, anyone want to share? You just unmute yourself or raise your hand if you want to add to that particular topic. All right.
I'll say something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it,
Okay,
Amanda.
so Kelly's gotten me into reading these books. So now I have like 8 books like on like Audible that I listen to literally like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Like my ADD is just in full gear and kind of enjoying it. But when about the whole thing, and I'm religious, and so it meant a lot. It was very cool to think, you know, kind of like praying for that person, so that, because I believe, and Kelly and I talk about this all the time, is we let Satan steal our joy. And in the moments of very excitement thing, like we're so excited, and then we hear something else, and immediately we start comparing ourselves to other people, and the joy's gone because we're already like it just zaps the joy from the accomplishment we had. So my thing is, as a Christian, we too also, you know, we pray for people. Like, well, duh, why didn't we think of it? Like, that's something so common sense to me, but I never even thought of it. And it made me start thinking, like, the moment I prayed for that person that I was jealous of, it was kind of like the 5-second rule, because it was resetting my brain. And I'm listening to the 5-second rule right now also. And literally, it's when saying that prayer for them, it makes you literally stop your brain from that anxious thoughts and all that anxiety that's bringing it, and it's gone. And then you are actually happy for that person. So I thought it was really cool way to kind of reset your brain the way you think of it. And I'm like, why didn't I think about this a year ago? You know, so
Yeah.
That's just my little thought on that.
I love that. And I think it's a very unselfish thing to do, because when we instantly start thinking about ourselves, like, that's a selfish thing to be like, oh, well, how come I'm not having this test, and me and blah. But when we're like, no, congratulations, let's make this about you. And then then we're not comparing ourselves and going down that like spiral of negative thoughts. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Amanda.
I have something that really stood out to me.
What's that?
So, so Rachel Hollis talks a lot about, she said something about another podcast she was on, I don't remember who, and they said something about how, what does it feel like to be an overnight success? Right?
Yes.
And she kind of like didn't even know how to respond at first, because she wasn't an overnight success. And so as we're talking about comparing and being jealous, sometimes we can think like, how come they were able to do this faster than me or better than me or whatever? And the thing what we don't see is that most of the time it wasn't that okay, so maybe Color Street started a year ago, but this person has been working towards the success they're having in other ways for many years. So you just don't know anyone's full story, and so all success takes work in one way or another. Like you, Kelly, you didn't just start this journey a year ago. You started it back when you were building your other businesses and gaining all that knowledge. And so if somebody looked at that and thought, well, gosh, how did she get lucky? But it wasn't. It was hard work and all of that, those years of training and knowledge. And so I really liked that, because she talked a lot about being patient and how sometimes you just have to be patient and persevere through things taking longer than you thought. And so it's good to set goals with deadlines, but it's also, don't let the deadline go and then think that your dreams are over.
Yes.
I really liked that, especially because I'm in a part of my life where things don't always work the way I planned it. I've got other things going on too. And so it's okay to not have a deadline and to be just enjoying the journey.
Yes. Amen to that. Because, and she talked a little bit about patience. She said, like, I don't know her exact wording, but she said something about like, I can out-patient most people. you know, because I hear about so many stylists who sign up like their first month and then they try it for a month and they're like, meh, this just isn't for me. And I'm like, dude, you gotta stick around. Like, you gotta be consistent. You gotta stick around to see the success, you know, and it takes time. It's like learning to walk and then run, and you know what I mean? So, and I'm reading all these comments. Rebecca says, yes, I've always been on a slower track in everything I do. So her talking about that, I really appreciated when she touched on that point. And then Lindy said, right, there's always a backstory and we don't know what another's is. I've had to remind my girls of that when they ask how I've done as well as I have. This has been years coming. Yes, exactly. Like, some people have built up their personal brand and their network for years. And then, you know, they joined Color Street and they kind of brought that network with them and were able to kind of run with it. And then Wendy said, overnight success is all the small efforts compounded, then boom, it seems like you're an overnight success. Yeah. And then Liz said, my patience has been very thin since I've gotten older. And then Marion said, I guess they mean overnight in how your kids grow up so fast. It's been years. Right? Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And you guys, probably one of my top 5 books that was life-changing is called, what's it called? The Slight Edge. And I don't think it's available on audio, which is so annoying. But I'm telling you, this book has been life-changing for me. It really was like, and it's kind of talks about that compound effect that Wendy just mentioned, of how like small steps can lead to success, but they can also lead to like some of our failures, right? Where we take these small steps of, you know, not eating well or not doing the work or not showing up, or, you know what I mean? And those can also, you know, it's like small, we were talking about this over the dinner table. I was telling, you know, my kids, small things bring about big things, you know, with my kids. And so yeah, it really is all about the small things. It's all about the little things every day. So yeah, Slight Edge. Seriously, you guys, it's gonna like, I still think about it all the time, about that whole concept, because it really is mind blowing. And yeah, there's a book called Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and that is a similar concept. And I've read both, but I got to say I like Slight Edge better, even though it's only in a regular book. You might be able to find it on YouTube though, and just like listen to the audio part of YouTube. Anyway, okay, so let's talk. There was so much covered in this. I just loved it. So what other, does anyone have any other thing that really, really stood out? Did they have any aha moments from this that they want to share? I have more to share, but I'd love to hear from you guys as well. Oh, and then Kristen just commented and said, as a high school math teacher, I have students who think I was always great at math, but it has been years coming. Exactly, right? It takes practice and time. It's just like playing the piano. Like, we want it. I remember I went snowboarding when I was a teenager, and I'm such a, I mean, you guys probably know this, but I'm like I want to, like, whatever I do, I'm going to do 110%, and I want to be good at it, and I'm not very patient. And so, like, I want to be, like, amazing at it. And so I went snowboarding for my very first time, and I was so annoyed at myself because I was, like, not as good as I expected that I would be. But it's like, hello, you can't go to the freaking top of the mountain, which I actually did, and it took me, like, an hour to get down. You can't, like, expect to, like, be, you know, snowboarding or skiing, like, at the very top. You gotta stay on the bunny slope for a while. That's just how it is. So anyway, other thoughts from that podcast that you loved? What did you guys think about the part where she talked about how to not suffer? She asked 2 questions. How to not suffer. I'll tell you the 2 questions she asked, and then you guys can chime in. She said, when we do have moments where we, like, where like we're yelling at our, she gave an example of like when we end up yelling at our kids or when we get frustrated and we like down the whole pan of brownies, you know what I mean? And then afterwards we're like, oh, why did I do that? You know, she said she's trying to learn, to ask herself two things so she can like, she's trying to minimize suffering in her life, right? Which I think we all aspire to do. She said two things to ask yourself: what set this off, and how could I have done this earlier? Like how could I have nipped this in the bud earlier so that I wouldn't have to suffer from this? So what's everyone's thoughts on those two questions they asked, and that topic of trying to avoid suffering?
I'll chime in. I really liked that. I thought it was a great way of kind of accepting responsibility. And I think, I think probably more of us do that when we realize, because we're not thinking through those two questions, but we're probably thinking, what can I do differently next time so that doesn't happen? I thought that was very insightful, something I hadn't really heard before articulated in that way.
Yeah, me neither. Because I think we have moments like that every freaking day, right? So it's like, okay, how can I avoid this in the future? And I feel like if you do that like every day, I feel like you'd get really good at self-discipline, like self-mastery, just really like learning to improve those things that we struggle with every day. Any other thoughts regarding that topic? All right. And then she talked about journaling. I thought this was really cool. She talked about writing every day. She writes down 10 immediate goals as if they already happened. So I thought that was an interesting way to say it, because basically, instead of saying like, I want to lose 10 pounds, you say, I am in fantastic physical shape, which is basically like affirmations, which I'm all about. I'm all about those affirmations, putting those positive things out in the world, because she said, then your mind doesn't focus on the want. She said your mind will focus on like becoming, like, on that actual state of being. So, I loved that, of just being like, saying like, I'm in fantastic physical shape. And so she said, I guess she writes that down every day. Like she rewrites those goals down every day, because there is something very powerful about the words that we speak and the words that we write. So I love the idea of writing. I've heard, I've read The Miracle Morning a couple times, and that's one of the things he talks about is affirmations. And I used to like read my affirmations, but I never actually rewrote them. If you rewrote them every day, can you imagine, like those would be ingrained in your head, and you would have these like 10 affirmations. And maybe you could start with 5. I feel like 10's kind of a lot, but you could start with 5 and, just put those out there. Like, I'm in fantastic physical shape, just stuff like that. Because then I think those things would start to like pop in your head when you get, like for example, I'm in fantastic physical shape. Well, if I'm in fantastic physical shape, then I'm going to act like someone who is in fantastic physical shape. And I'm going to do the actions of like working out or eating healthy or drinking lots of water. You know what I mean? And so that would probably pop up in your head if you get tempted to not do those things. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, is like acting as if you already, as if you already are. So, and this was not in the book, you guys, but I actually did get this epiphany from Alison. She has an Instagram called The Alison Show. And if you look in her stories, she has a funny little like highlighted story on Instagram called Thoughts from the Drive-Thru. And they're really funny. And she said she had this epiphany about like physical fitness. And she was like, you guys, you know, sometimes we like focus so much on, okay, like I can't remember exactly how she said it, but she was like, I finally had this epiphany that instead of like focusing on, I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. She said, if I already was in, you know, if I already was in really good shape, then I would eat like someone who's in really good shape, or I would work out like someone. And she was like, so you have to like act as if you already are. So if you guys, if your goal is to be, you know, is to make a certain income with Color Street, then you darn well better act like a 5-figure a month girl boss, right? Or if you want to be an executive director in Color Street, then you better freaking act like the executive director is in Color Street, right? Success leaves clues, and so you can watch the girls who are already doing that stuff and see what they do and follow that. You know what I mean? So acting as if you already are, like, I am a senior director or a senior or a senior stylist or whatever it is, or I have already quit my job. Like if you're trying to quit your job, then you act like somebody who is like a killer CEO and knows how to run their own business, right? So I think if you kind of change your mindset on that, it's going to be like, I am a CEO. So do CEOs like just not show up because they're not in the mood or they're having a bad day? No, they show up every freaking day. They go to their meetings, like they do the work even when they're not in the mood or they don't feel like it or they're frustrated, right? So sorry, I'm preaching. Anyway, it's just something I kind of have been thinking about lately, and I'm like, man, like that change. You know, my motto ever since I've been in 7th grade, I remember telling my girlfriend, I was like, my motto is fake it till you make it. And that has really, really served me well. But I feel like it's such a cliche now. It's like overly used that we don't visualize it very well. But if you act as if you already are what you want, then it makes you sort of like step into that role, and then you become it. Then you are faking it till you make it, you know? So just had to add that in here while we're discussing that, because I really think that there's a quote by Diane von, she's like a designer, and I'm going to butcher her name. It's like DVF. You guys know who I'm talking about? Diane von Furstenberg or something. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? Okay. So she has this quote that says, like, I never knew what I wanted to, you know, to be like, to do when I grew up, but I always knew the woman that I wanted to become. And I love that. It's really about becoming the person that you want to become, right? So it's about that legacy that you want to leave in your life. And I've been thinking a lot about that because my grandpa passed away, and I'm like, okay, like he left, you know, his legacy. What legacy am I going to leave? What's important to me? What do I want my children and my grandchildren and all those who interact with me to remember about me? So, and in fact, I loved in the podcast, did you guys remember the part where she said she had a champagne bottle that had a tag on it that said, bestseller or New York Times bestseller, and she wasn't going to open it until she was a New York Times bestseller. And I was like, dude, that's friggin' genius. Like, you know, let's see, Diana's saying, I love this. I have a fake $100,000 bill hanging on my mirror with some of my affirmations in the present tense, right? Like, put it out there, girl. I know, who's that actor? Jim Carrey. He wrote a check to himself for, I think it was like $1 million or $1 billion, $10 million. He like, and it was like post dated, and he eventually earned $10 million in acting. He like put it out in the universe. I'm all about that hippie crap because it's works. And I'm going to be talking about that in the webinar right after this, to our new status about vision boards. Because I could go on and on and on about vision boards. But anyways, so yes, yes, Brenda, it's Diane von Furstenberg. Did I get it right? I think I might have got it right. Hey. Anyways, so yeah, put it out there, say your affirmations, start your vision board, fake it till you make it, friends. Like it's powerful stuff. So I'm going to try to like start writing my, my affirmations, like even just 5 on a Post-it note. If you don't know this about me, I love Post-its. So every day, write my affirmations. That's your assignment, guys. Write your 5 affirmations on a Post-it note. Do it tonight before you forget. I'm going to do it too. And then rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. Okay. Yay. Rebecca loves Post-it notes too. Okay. Anyone have any thoughts, you guys? Oh, and she did say in the thing, she said to be grateful for things as if they already happened. That's another thing you can do, is being like, I'm so grateful that I made $100,000, right, Diana? Just put it out there. Okay, any other thoughts, you guys? Oh, because just feel free to unmute yourself. But they talked about the author of the 5-Second Rule, which is the book Amanda was talking about, and how in her Instagram profile, like bio, she said she was the #1 booked female speaker in the US. And I was like, dude, that's amazing. Like, yes, Diana's showing the book right now. Such a good book, also in like my top 10 favorites. And she, in fact, I gotta make you guys a list of my favorites. She put that in her bio that she's the #1 booked female in the US. And like they were talking about that in the podcast, and they were like, who knows if she is, but she probably has manifested that to herself just by putting that out there, right? So I love that, like call yourself what you want to be and become it. Don't be afraid to say like, I am, like sometimes I think we're scared to like say I'm a girl boss, or I am a nail boss, or I am an entrepreneur. Like own it. Okay. Okay. So thoughts. I am preaching and I want to hear more of you and less of me. So unmute yourself and share your thoughts. Be brave. 5-second rule.
I have something to say about that.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you guys a really quick story about the 5-second rule. I had just started to read it. This was last summer. I'm rereading it right now. But I was on vacation with my college roommates in, is it Midway, Utah? That is that cute little town. I can't remember.
Yes.
And we drove by this mansion, and I was like, guys, let's like just drive by it. Let's like go down the driveway and we'll drive by it. It's so pretty. So we stopped and we drove by it, and I was like, I don't think anyone's home. I'm going to go quick knock on the door, and if no one's home, we'll just like quickly walk around the outside and be creepers. It's so cute. It's such a pretty home. We were like totally being stupid. Anyway, so I go and I knock on the door, and the guy, like, he answers the door, and I had in that moment had to decide how I was going to handle it. I was like, 5-second rule, Diana, just ask, just tell him you want to walk around the outside of his beautiful home. I did. He let me and all 5 of my roommates have a private tour of his mansion. Turns out he was my in my congregation in California when I was like 3 years old. Like small world. And so we were able to connect and like chat, and it was this lovely, and it was all like because of the 5-second rule, and just like, okay, I'm just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? I put myself in a weird situation, So I love that. And I think that when you put yourself out there like that, that's when you can attract back those like crazy circumstances where like all of a sudden the floodgates open for like those little mini miracles. And that can be true in business too. So.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes, I use the 5-second rule all the time, especially when I go live, because I'm always like, what should I say? Is my hair okay? Like we always overthink everything, right? And then I'm like, no, just go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like, yeah, I love that book. It's so helpful. That's so awesome. I love that story. Thanks, Diana. Other thoughts? We have 3 minutes left. Chime in quick. I'm going to let it be superly awkward silence for the next 3 minutes if you don't unmute yourself.
Okay, I just counted. I just feel like once I've talked once, I can't talk anymore.
No, please do.
No one else is. Back to the affirmations and the writing your goals as if they've happened. I always imagine that I'm like talking to a stranger and I'm introducing myself as something I want to be, right? And I say, hi, I'm Laura and I, whatever. Like, I would hate to be caught in a lie. And so when I imagine it in that way, that I'm like telling someone else, or like if I am at the doctor's office and it asks, how often do you exercise, right? And I always look at that, and if I know I'm going in for a physical that week, you better believe I'm going to be working out 5 days a week at least so that I can answer that, right? But if I answer it and I put that down on paper, then I have to like live up to it. Otherwise, I'm a liar. So not just like affirming it to myself, but also like not letting down the fact that I've like owned that fact, like that is me. And so I've got to live up to that. And so sometimes if you have people you trust, maybe sharing those things with them, not necessarily all of Facebook world, but maybe having a group of people that have goals. Maybe they don't even have the same goals. Like it doesn't have to be like, we all want to lose X amount of weight. It could be just a group of people that have different things they're working towards, to actually say it out loud and say, this is me and this is what I want. That can really be powerful too.
Totally. And I love that, because I've talked about this before. Finding an accountability partner in this business is going to help you so much. Just find someone. They don't even have to be on our team, but find like a partner that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can vent to, that you can share your goals with, and then you put it out there and say, I'm doing this, or put it out there to social media. Hey, guess what? My goal is to do XYZ. And then you're like, well, crap, now the whole world knows, which is what I just did with my fitness goals the other day. Now I'm like, crap, now I have to do it. So it totally helps to like share your goals with others. Thanks so much for sharing that, Laura. So you guys, if you don't have an accountability partner, get one. And if you haven't listened to this podcast, listen to it. It was so great. We are almost out of time, but join us for our new stylist webinar right after this. If you are a new stylist, or if you have a new stylist, make sure they know about it. So thanks for watching, you guys. I love chatting with you every month about this. So we'll see you next week. Bye.